Hello one and all, welcome to Seeing Through Glass, welcome to Norway. I'm here with Lotus to test drive that, their all-new electric SUV, the Eletre. Yes, you heard me right, Lotus have made an electric SUV. I mean, if you ever wanted a sign that the world is changing, that right there is it. Lotus, an electric SUV. Look, hey, I'm a fan of the brand. I want this thing to be a success. I'm just really struggling to see how those two things are going to come together. Lotus and electric SUV. It's like imagining McDonald's saying that they're going to open a Michelin-starred restaurant. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to do. It would just be a bit of a surprise. Anyway, fingers crossed, because this represents Lotus's, well, new identity, their next generation. So yeah, it kind of needs to be good. And I'm going to give myself the best chance to find out if it is, because in this video I'm going to be doing 250 miles behind the wheel of an Eletre through the beautiful Norwegian countryside, and even taking the super speedy Eletre R onto a runway for some big top speed runs. So by the end of this video I should be able to tell you whether I think Lotus have been able to make an electric SUV that's still a Lotus. Just quickly, before I get into this review, I want to tell you about HelloFresh. I think I first tried HelloFresh like 9 months ago, and we've genuinely been hooked ever since. As you can imagine, after a hectic press trip like this one, the last thing I want to do is get home and stare in the fridge trying to work out what to make us for dinner. But over and above that, in more recent times, the last thing me and my wife Vicky want to work out after a day looking after our baby is what to make ourselves for dinner. Yeah, I mean, you know, baby and planning your dinner, that just doesn't happen. Luckily, HelloFresh takes away that problem. You go online or use the app to select your meals for the week ahead, and there are genuinely so many meals. They actually sent over some information that says it's 44 recipes each week. That sounds a lot, but it actually kind of makes sense because we're just endlessly scrolling, and it's got to the point where Vicky and I actually argue over what we're going to choose for the week ahead, because either we have our favourites or there's something which sounds better to the other person, and yeah, well, somehow we compromise and end up with the 5 or 6 meals that we're ordering for the following week. And then all the ingredients turn up in a HelloFresh branded box, and they're all separated into their own meals with a super straightforward recipe card. I am no chef, and I'm often exhausted at the end of the day from either press trip or baby. But these recipe cards are really easy to follow, and last night I made steak, and we've ordered some bao buns to try this week. I know when I was away on my last press trip, Vicky had some chicken katsu burgers that looked amazing. We are yet to try a recipe that we haven't actually enjoyed. I'm sure there will be one out there, but so far, especially the Asian-inspired meals, I'm starting to salivate now. Anyway, we genuinely ask ourselves how we would survive, or how did we survive without HelloFresh? That sounds like a line, but it's how we feel, and maybe it's just the baby exhaustion and the fact that it's so helpful that plays a part in that. But if you're someone who lives a hectic lifestyle, or you just feel like you lack creativity in the kitchen, HelloFresh could be the answer for you. Amazingly, they have sponsored this video. Huge thanks to them for supporting the channel and this content. And by sponsoring this video, they're offering you a great deal. If you sign up using my code HFScene60, that's HFScene60, it gets you 60% off your first box, and then 25% off your boxes for the next 2 months. The link is in the description below. I highly recommend you go and check it out. They also offer great flexibility with the amount we've been traveling recently. We've just been pausing our subscription and then kicking it back in once we've returned, so that's been super straightforward. As I say, we're really big fans. So check out the link in the description below. Make sure you use my code HFScene60. Enough about food, although there will probably still be food in this video. Let's get back to the Lotus Eletre. Well, here we go, boys and girls. I've just stepped into the Eletre for the first time. I've literally just landed in Norway on a flight from the UK. We were kind of escorted to this car park where there was a lineup of Eletres, and I was given the key. Yup, that's the key for the Eletre to this particular car. I mean, there is so much to take in. This is a big departure from Lotus. This is a whole new era. I'll be honest, just sitting in this car, apart from the badge, there is nothing Lotus about this experience, but that could be a good thing. this feels almost otherworldly. I feel like I'm in a movie prop from iRobot. There is so much going on. I'm struggling to compute it all. There's a screen over there for the passenger that looks kind of beautiful, and it seems to be displaying maybe a music choice. But this huge central console, which has a sort of, well, I guess it's like Tesla's display of objects around you or in front of you. I can see the car next to me. I can see people walking around. I've got the classic screens for the side mirrors. Look at these exposed speakers, all these materials. There's carbon fiber. Oh my God! This is kind of cool. As I say, it's like, it doesn't feel very Lotus-y, but it feels exciting. I do have a tendency to get overexcited too quickly when it comes to reviewing new cars, but I can't really help it in this occasion because this genuinely feels new. I feel like there's so much to explore. This might end up being like a 45-minute video because I'm just going to be like, ooh, what does that do? Ooh, what does that do? What does this do? Oh, that's the cup holder. Oh, what's that button do? Oh, well, that's slightly pointless, but I kind of love it. Anyway, apparently we have a 20-minute drive to the lunch stop, which is kind of like a familiarization drive, just to get used to the car, and I guess establish whether we've got any initial questions. And then we've got a sort of 3 or 4 hour route this afternoon into the Norwegian wilderness to really get to grips with this Eletre S. So I guess let's put the seatbelt on and get cracking. Now, aside from its stunning scenery and pretty good driving roads, you might think Norway seems like a bit of a weird place for Lotus to launch a new car. 80% of new cars, 80% of new cars sold in Norway last year were electric cars. Yeah, this place loves an EV, so it's actually kind of the perfect place to be launching a new EV and Lotus's first EV. It's going to help me, I think, for 2 main reasons. Firstly, I kind of want to judge people's reactions to this car. If anywhere in the world is going to open their arms to an electric SUV from Lotus, I think it's going to be Norway. But over and above that, there are so many EVs on the road here, it's going to help me quickly figure out what this car's rivals are going to be. Because Lotus keep talking about Ferrari and Lamborghini, saying, hey, if they can build SUVs, why can't we? And I guess they make a good point. But Ferrari and Lamborghini have stuck with combustion engines in their SUVs. This is an electric SUV. So I actually think this car's main rival is the BMW iX, which I personally think is one of the best electric cars on the market. I've driven it a couple of times and it's just fantastic for a number of reasons. So yeah, Lotus already had a pretty steep hill to climb launching their first EV, but to go up against that car I think is an even steeper hill. But initial impressions on this interior alone are putting up a pretty good challenge, so I'm quite excited to figure out what this car really has to offer over the next 24 to 36 hours. But we're very nearly at our lunch stop where I'm going to be able to refuel after my early flight this morning, catch up with the team, ask a few more questions, and then we'll explore the car and the country a little bit further this afternoon. I'd forgotten how much I like Norway. Just had a delicious lunch at the Lily Country Club. And look at me now, parked up by this beautiful lake. Everyone's so nice and friendly, it's all so pretty. I need to come back here more often. Speaking of pretty though, we should probably address the elephant in the room, the way the Eletre looks. Now, you're going to think I've been paid to say this, and I know I'm one of the few. I actually quite like the way it looks. I said I know I'm one of the few because, well, when this thing was unveiled online, the comments were fairly one-sided, or the reaction was fairly one-sided. People just called it flat out ugly, which I disagree with. I do not think that's an ugly car. It's not very Lotus, as I keep mentioning. This is a new era, new age for Lotus. But I do see some design cues from like Lamborghini Urus. What's that Kia? The Kia EV GT6 thing? I think the front is its best angle. It's kind of really angular and sharp. So you make your way around the back, maybe things go downhill slightly, but overall I approve. I mean, look at it there. I think it looks awesome. It looks futuristic. There's so many angles and cutaways and what look to be active bits of aero. And let's face it, when the latest M3 launched, everyone went, ah! When the 720S launched, people were like, what's that? So maybe with time, people are going to start to accept the Eletre more, and you should, I think. I really don't want to leave this spot. It's super nice. The sun's come out, and just sit here staring at the car and this view, but I do need to crack on, and apparently the roads and the views get even better this afternoon. I've got like a 3-hour route ahead, so yeah, I should jump back into the car, but I think I'll just take this in for a little bit longer. Right, I'm not even going to mess around, I'm going to get straight into it. I think this car might be fantastic. It's about an hour and a half since I left the lake, and I've driven this car on various different roads in various different driving modes, and oh my god, driving modes are selected here using this what looks to be a gear shift paddle behind the steering wheel. And I'm in Sport now, which lowers the ride height, pops up the active rear spoiler, must make a number of other changes, which I'll find out tonight, I'm sure, in the technical briefing. But it makes this car one of the funnest electric vehicles I've driven to date. One thing to note, either there is no sport sound, or I've deactivated somehow. It's the only thing that I think is missing is some kind of whirring noise, but genuinely, this thing weighs 2.5 tons, and I am throwing it around with such joy and what feels like precision. It's just great. It's really smooth. You've got all of this performance, but instant torque, but loads of grip. Everything just feels lovely. The biggest thing for me is the car is not wallowy. I've driven loads of performance SUVs, and I often berate them because I'm like, why do you need to go this fast in a car this big? And I don't think you really do, and even in this car I don't think you need to go this fast, but I just enjoy going fast in this car more than I have done in even like a Cayenne Turbo GT. I mean, look at this, it's like Eau Rouge at Spa. The thing is just brilliant. It's so good, and the ride, or at least the chassis control, is fantastic, but the ride isn't overly firm. I'm not being bashed around everywhere. It's kind of still really supple but controlled. Well, welcome to our overnight stop, The Well, a wellness hotel just outside Oslo. Essentially, we've done a big loop today. 250 kilometers behind the wheel of the car, but a big circle. Finishing off where we started, Oslo. Now, in terms of battery usage, I made it here to the hotel with 36% charge remaining, which I think was giving me an estimated range of like 182 kilometers. And I think that's pretty good because I don't remember exactly, but when I picked up the car this morning, it had 95% charge. I think the estimated range was like 430 or 440 kilometers. So the maths kind of works out, which is fairly impressive because I was driving the car pretty hard today. I was in sport mode most of the time and really pushing on. But I'm sitting here now, I can see the car out the window, and yeah. Oh, I think I might jump on the configurator. But anyway, I'll say goodnight to you for now. I'll see you all in the morning. How does it feel? How does it feel? Honestly, this is easily one of the best in-car sound systems I've ever heard. These KEF speakers are unbelievable. The last 24 hours I've just been doing this carpool karaoke everywhere I go. I've just got the music so loud, singing my head off because the clarity, it's really fantastic. Anyway, hello everyone, welcome to day 2 here in Norway. The weather has turned and the heavens have opened. Yep, the rain has really settled in. But that is not deterring my mood or spirit, as you can probably tell. Because after a night's sleep, I woke up even more confident in my declaration that this car is fantastic. Genuinely. As I mentioned I would, I jumped on the configurator last night and spec'd out an Eletre S in my spec to 111 grand, which is a ton of money, but kind of an appropriate price for a new performance electric SUV. And I genuinely started to think, well, how do I order one? Because it's that good. Actually, I spoke to a load of other journalists and media that are attending last night, and it seems like everyone's in the same frame of mind. You can never really tell. Some people put their cards close to their chest, but there are a lot of positive noises. I just think this is just an unbelievable package. Lotus have not just made a good electric SUV, they've made a great car, full stop. Anyway, I'm about 40 minutes from the runway where we're going to go behind the wheel of the Eletre R, which is going to be interesting in this weather. But yeah, I'm just so happy to be spending more time in this car. Let's get old Bob back on. Where are you? Come on, Bob. Wish us luck. Good luck.
30, 40, 50, 60. Wow. There we go.
Well, as awesome as that experience just was, you find me back in my Eletre S. I think this might be the one to have. 905 horsepower, super impressive, great fun, but maybe a little unnecessary. This car has not felt slow over the last 24 hours. I was not sitting here going, oh, I could really do with the extra 300 horsepower. And the carbon ceramic brakes, yeah, were very impressive, but you can option them on this car, and I'm not sure it's that necessary. These brakes have felt really good too. So yeah, I think just save a bit of money and get yourself an S. Anyway, whilst some of the other journalists go out and have that experience, I thought I'd finally show you around this interior, because I keep saying it's such a great place to spend time and what an amazing interior they've made, but without really showing you any of the functionality. And there is so much functionality to show you. I actually don't know where to begin, and there's too much to show you in this video, but I'll try and give you a whistle-stop tour. First off, this big old screen, which has a lovely image of the Eletre, looking pretty mean at that angle. I can actually change the angle though, look, I can play with it. I don't really know the purpose of this, but it's kind of fun and it's super impressive. It looks almost like Need for Speed or Gran Turismo. And if I open the door opens on the screen, so I like that. Lots of bongs. This is one of those new cars that has a million safety features and functionality. You can turn most of it off, but I haven't gone through all of that. Lots of other sort of predictable things within this screen. Information about your battery, and you can choose your charging limit and things like that. The sat nav has been pretty damn good. Been using it for the majority of this trip, and yeah, you get this kind of graphic overlay. It's been helpful for sort of finding places to pull over and film and things like that. So yeah, that's been really good, as is this kind of like Tesla-like object. I don't even know what you call that, but it's been good. Back to the home screen. We can also, of course, control the air conditioning. Loads of ways to control the air conditioning. You also have these big old levers down here, so you've got a little bit of something to feel and pull rather than just being on the touch screen. But what I find most impressive about this screen is here, the app functionality. You can download and add apps, but they've preloaded a whole load, including games like Bird Bump. Look at this. So as I'm sitting around charging the vehicle, I can entertain myself by playing Bird Bump, which is actually quite fun. But the music itself, I'm going to bang on about these speakers, but they've loaded up Tidal here. This is great and super easy to use. The passenger display over there can be used for changing the track or pausing the music. It's really nicely hidden away, actually. I think a very beautiful display. You can see all these lights. If I go into the setting and go light, you can see at the moment it's all yellow strips. I can change that to red, and that will all suddenly change. So lots of sort of functionality or sort of customizability, is that a word? Here on the steering wheel, we can control the music, the driving modes, the regen, the cruise control. We've got a heads-up display, but also like a digital dash showing our critical information. This guy has the optional side cameras, which I'm not a fan of. I would just have traditional wing mirrors, but still pretty cool. I can wirelessly charge my phone. I mentioned these kind of crazy cup holders that hide themselves for no particular reason, but I like that they do. Massive cubby hole in there with charging points. All the materials are really lovely. There's carbon fiber everywhere. I think that's an optional extra. The glass sunroof is an intelligent glass sunroof. I can change the opacity of it. This rain's getting pretty heavy now. Can you hear me? I hope you can. But genuinely, I think this is maybe class leading, or at least futuristic. It's as good, if not better, than almost anything else I've experienced. It's all the tech you could want, beautifully designed, beautifully displayed, with all the nice materials. Okay, the screen is sometimes a tiny bit laggy, just a tiny bit, but given how much it's doing, that doesn't necessarily always surprise or bother me, and maybe they'll do a few updates, over-air updates, or even updates before this ends up in customers' hands. And yeah, I just think it's awesome. There's so much that you can set up. You would spend about 3 days when you took delivery of this car just getting all this stuff set up, and then you'd probably change it all again after a month because you can. But I like it all, people, as I keep saying. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, there you go. Now you understand all the incredible stuff that Lotus have invested in to make this experience, well, more than just performance, which is really what Lotus has been all about, right? It's always been about driving pleasure. Now it's got everything else that you'd want, need, or expect from a brand new state-of-the-art EV. So I guess it's probably time to leave the airfield shortly and head towards the airport to finish up this experience. So how do I sum up this experience? I've obviously been overly positive, so let's try and be realistic for a moment and maybe even consider some negatives. I guess I should answer, or at least address, the question that I asked myself in the intro. Is the Eletre I'm having to whisper because if I say it out loud, I activate the voice activated controls and some woman goes, "How can I help you?" And I don't want her to help me, so I'm just going to whisper. You all get what I'm trying to say. I'm undecided, if I'm honest. At face value, there is close to nothing about this vehicle that it makes it a loop. Apart from the badge, maybe the colour of this particular car. But when you start to dial into it, really think about it, it's got fantastic steering. The fact it's fun and good to drive, like all previous and current, means that probably there is some DNA somewhere in there if you really think about it. But let's face it, if you're a purist or someone who's loved Emiras, Evoras, Elises, yeah, you're going to be like, this is not a... But if you come at it with a blank slate, fresh eyes, and being prepared to accept that now makes other vehicles that are different to just your crazy two-seat sports cars, then maybe you can accept it for what it is, a brilliant vehicle. And the fact it's wearing a badge should give you pride and joy, because if this car wore a Geely badge, which it very easily could, well, firstly, I don't think I even would have come on this event, and I wouldn't care as much that it was so good. But I'm enjoying the vehicle, and then I look down and I go, yeah, it's like, yeah! Pride of Britain, but also just pride of the mark. Like, we all want this brand to do well, we all want this company to do well, and they've delivered a brilliant product. Not a product we expect from them, but yeah, McDonald's nailed that Michelin star restaurant. Good on them. I genuinely would have one, and there's a big part of me that's considering it. I mean, it is a lot of money, but I'm almost sad for this time and this journey to end. Yeah. Insane, right? Who would have thunk it? But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you some insight into, yeah, a whole nother world for the brand for Hethel, or the brand from Hethel. Give it a thumbs up if you have enjoyed it, and stay subscribed for plenty more videos to come.